This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to make some pork spare ribs on the Masterbuilt MPS230, which is a 30-inch propane smoker, and it's a two-door, so it has the fire and wood pellet section in the bottom door and the food section in the top. So right this minute, I'm running some pellets in there in a pellet tray and giving it a little bit more seasoning. We just started with this smoker, and so it's brand new, and this will only be the second cook. First of all, I want to show you a picture of this. Here's the spare ribs, and I have a local market that is really close, and they have a separate butcher counter in there. But it's very unique compared to like the regular national brand stores. There's that picture there of the spare ribs, and looking at them, examining them, it just looks like separated rack of ribs, but that's fine. It'll work great for what we're doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glove up. So this is my brand new curved boning knife. It's a Victorinox, and I have a whole selection of these kind of knives, and they work really well. I do have a straight boning knife that I was using before, but I noticed when I was trying to trim things like brisket and pork butt or pork roast that I was scalping it a little bit, and I wanted to get a little bit evener, and I think that the curved knife will help me do that. We have these ribs here, and I'm going to go ahead and just open the package. I'm not going to wash them. There's a lot of different schools of thought, but I'm pretty sure that it was washed from the processor. As far as chicken goes, a lot of people say that when you go to wash chicken, it actually makes a larger mess in your kitchen and leads to a possibility of cross-contamination in your kitchen sink. I'm just going to set this aside for now. And so there's what we have there out of the package. And this one is actually still folded over. And I'm just going to take these and I'm going to cut them right down the middle. So now we have 4 relatively even pieces. I'm not a big binder person, but I do like to use mustard when I do use binder. Something else that I might suggest is if you're going with brown sugar and you like really sweet ribs, you might consider using honey and mixing the brown sugar in with it to use as your binder. So I've got the butter knife here, and I'm going to show you this really quick. I'm going to take this and I'm going to bend it, and I'm just going to push this right along the back of one of the bones and get it in there as far as I can without breaking the membrane. You get it in there, you get it a little twist, you get a little spot to grab on, then you can put your finger in there. And you can pull it apart and separate it. If you need to grab onto it, just use a paper towel and it won't slip out of your fingers. I brought a paper towel out in case I have an issue with the last piece. I have the membrane all cleaned up off of there, and then I'm going to continue to get it all mustarded up here. Okay, so the mustard's all done, and I tell you what, I am making a real mess. I'm going to go ahead and take this glove off. Then I'm going to start with the brown sugar. Now, this is just regular brown sugar, light brown. If you like the molasses taste, use the dark brown. I'm not really that particular on my ribs which one. I usually use whichever one's open. Pour it into a separate bowl so that way you're not putting your hands with your contaminated meat in the bag. And then spread it lightly on top. And then go ahead and rub it in. And then do the same thing with your mix. This is my standard 3-2-1-1. And the nice thing about mixing it into a really large container is that you can keep it well mixed when you go to use it. This comes out nice and even, so it's not hard to work with at all in this container. And this is just a leftover bulk garlic container. Once I get it on there, I'm just going to pat it into the mustard and then flip everything over and start again. Here we go. We have a nice seasoned set of ribs here, and they're not heavily seasoned. I don't like to overdo it, but I do have a variety there. So with the sweetness from a light coating of brown sugar and then the other stuff, if you want more seasoning, put more seasoning on there. But again, I don't like to overdo it. I want to taste the pork. The next thing we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and pull out one of these shelves. And we're going to use it to make a tinfoil tray. Going to pull out enough tinfoil to completely cover the shelf, like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over the shelf and just fold it down. Then I will lift it up and you'll see the outline of the tray. Then I can take this and fold it over on all sides. So once you get it folded over, then give it a nice second fold like this. It doesn't have to be a strong fold, just a little bit to curve it up. By doing this, now we have a tray that is similar to the size of the racks, but there'll be room all the way around it for the smoke to go. So I've removed the top shelf, and then I'm going to put this one in the middle here. And then I'm going to move these pellets up right here. So they're underneath that tray, and they're burning, adding extra smoke flavor to it, and then we won't have to maintain it. We will start out with some wood chips, but we're not going to be putting a bunch in there. And the reason that I removed the top shelf is so that way we can use one of these and cook all of the pork all on the same shelf at the same time. You will want to place that sideways so that way the rail runs counter to the grate. I like to try to get the thicker pieces closer to the middle. Looks like those might almost touch, so we'll move this one over. Then we'll just slide that in. And I don't think we need to be concerned about anything else in there for right now, so we're going to go ahead and close that door. The vent on the back is in a fully open position. And then we'll go ahead and turn it on. So I'll put it on medium and turn the tank open. And then I'm going to lower it down just a little bit. Now I'm going to put the fire disc in there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load some wood chips in here. But the first thing I'm going to do is put a couple of these big chunks of pecan in there. So I have a part of a bag of pecan left here, and I'm just going to put in, 3 pieces in here. I'll show you that. So I got them spread out a little bit so that way there's room for the wood chips to get by. Now I don't have any chips for pecan. I have alder and I have hickory and mesquite. I'm going to use the alder because it's the mellower of the 3. And these are actually considered chunks from this manufacturer, but I personally think that they're a little on the small side to be considered a chunk. But their regular one is a lot finer because it's intended for an electric smoker. So you can see there, that's what we've got going on in there. We'll go ahead and put this in there and close the lid. Now I'm pretty much done with this, so we'll throw that on there. Got mustard on everything, so I'm going to have to wash some stuff when I get in the house. So right now what I'm doing is I'm letting the smoker get up to temperature. It's going to take a minute or two for the temperature to really go to where we want it to be. What we're looking for is 225 for 2 hours, and then we'll look at the doneness of the meat and decide when we're going to wrap it and how much we're going to raise the temperature. I will cook it at 225 for 2 hours, and then my goal is to cook it at 275 for 2 hours, and then put a barbecue sauce on it and throw it on the propane grill if it's not barky and crispy enough. So I'm not going to have you sit around while I play with this temperature, but for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to sit right here and watch this temperature. When I'm done doing that, then we'll come back and take a look really quick. So I've been watching it for a few minutes, and I think that I've got it just right about there. So now that I'm there, I'll just back it down just a little bit, and we'll see if I can get it to hold. So here's a picture of what the thermometer looks like right before I turned on the camera. And 225 is what we're going for. I don't really want to be under, so if I get up to 235, I'm happy with that too. We will continue to cook, and then I will touch base with you then. It's been just a little over 2 hours, and first I want to mention this table here. I put the table like this so that way it'll block the wind. The wind was coming down this way, and by putting the table, it causes the wind to slow down a little bit, which keeps from knocking the fire out. And if you're using something like an offset burner or something like that, the wind can actually stoke your fire and increase your temperature. So we've been bouncing back and forth over temperature a little bit, and it was going above 225 too far. So I lowered it down, and then it went below. And it's just kind of, when you're dealing with a valve regulated smoker like a propane smoker, it's a little bit of an adjustment game. Get yourself a book, sit out here, and keep an eye on it. So it looks like that they're actually a little behind, and the color looks good. They feel just a little soft, and the bone's not sticking up as much as I'd like to see. I'm going to go ahead and close it, and I'm going to move the temperature up to about 250. They do smell good, and it does look like there's a lot of good smoke in there. I'll go ahead and watch this for the next 15 minutes or so and make sure that the temperature goes up to where I want it. And then we'll come back in an hour and you can take a look. I think that at that point, I'll probably end up wrapping them for about an hour. We are back, and this is hour 3. I bumped the temperature up to 300 degrees. My target temperature was 275, but I wanted to make sure that I was over that because I didn't think it would cook in time if I didn't. we're going to go ahead and take these out. I'm going to get this up there, and hopefully you can see that. If you can see there, the bone is pulling back a little bit, so we're starting to separate. This one, which is the thinner one, has really good separation right now. We're going to go ahead and take them out of the rack and wrap them up. But before we do that, I'm going to take and cut off this very end piece right here. It's a small piece and it's definitely completely done. And this way I'll be able to sample one. Oh, that tastes wonderful. All the pork taste, nice and soft. It's not falling off, but it's definitely, you definitely can just pull it right off, and I'll show you. So I didn't even have to bite down on that. It was pretty good. I went ahead and pulled off 4 pieces of foil. I'm just going to set that down like this. Take that over the top like that, and I just want to put on some sauce here. What this is this is a store brand barbecue sauce, Worcestershire, and some brown sugar. I'm not going for like totally barbecuing glazing it. I just want to give a little bit of extra moisture to this. I'm going to roll it over, fold it, and roll it over again. Try to end up with the top on the top, and I'm just going to set that aside for the moment. I'm going to put just a little bit on this one, and then I'm going to take a look at the other side. Flip it back down. A little more on there. The wind has just been vicious today. So after I ran all those, folded them all up and sauced them, I realized how long that was. So I just clipped a little bit of that out so that way you could see the process instead of doing all 4. I open this up and they're not going to fit like they were. And I don't want to put them back on the rack because the rack will rip up the foil. So I'll go ahead and do this, and I'll take the 2 largest ones. That's this one here and this one here, and put those thicker ones on the top and the thinner ones on the bottom. You don't want to slide them around on the rack because those racks can tear the foil. I like to use the grill mats to set them on the rack. That way if I need to move them around in case they stick, that the grill mat is really rare for them to actually stick to it. Where the grill grates in there, they stick to quite often, especially with the debris that cooked off of the ribs while they were doing their first part of the cook. So the temperature in here is great. We did 2 pans of chips and then a little bit of pellets, but I'm not going to add any more to it. It's all wrapped in there, and so the smoke really won't change anything anyway. And I like the bark, so I'm not sure that I'm even going to bother with the gas grill. But we're gonna go on for about an hour, and then we'll let them rest and we'll take a look at them. It is time, so let's get this out. I grabbed one of these out already because I wanted to give it a chance to cool off. I'm gonna open these other ones here, and I'm gonna go ahead and set them on top to cool for a second. I put this cooling rack here. It's like a cheap cookie baking rack or cooling rack. And then I want you to see this here. This is the tray that I threw in there, and you can see all the burnt stuff on there that would have been in the bottom of your smoker. But now I can just throw that right in the garbage. And then the pellet smoker tray that I had filled halfway, I had already started it because I wanted to get a little more seasoning in beforehand, but that burned the rest of the way up, so that added all that flavor in there, plus it's helping complete the seasoning of the smoker. And I turned it off right before when I pulled that out. Like I always say, safety first, so I have a fire extinguisher sitting right over there. I think you can see it there on the ground. And when you're using something like that in an area like this with a propane flame, in an area where there's possible flammable objects, keep a fire extinguisher handy. A bucket of water is also nice, but oil and water don't mix, so if your oil catches on fire, you'll need a fire extinguisher. I'm gonna open this up now. Like I said earlier in the video, if you wanted it crispy, you could throw it right on the propane grill and it'd crisp right up. This here looks pretty soft. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut right along here, close to the bone. So this piece is going to be real meaty. Then I'm just going to run my knife along there, just like that. Take a little picture there. I'll rock it over here, but if that doesn't work out, then I'll throw a picture up on top. It's got a nice red smoke ring on the outside, and then let's get a bite. Well, that's perfect. Taste is excellent, and it's really soft. It's not falling apart. I don't like my meat mushy at all. And I saw a video in one of my Facebook groups earlier this morning, and it showed somebody cutting some brisket, and it was just way too soft. He said it was like 230 degrees. That's great. If you like your meat that way, I don't. I like it so I can tear through it with my teeth without using a knife, and any softer than that, then it starts to get mushy. Of course, pulled pork, you want a little bit thinner than that, but just a nice looking piece. I got to get it up here in the light so that way I can take a chance that you might be able to see it. We're all done. Masterbuilt propane smoker, 30-inch, cooked excellently. Still, I'm learning, dialing in the temperature a little bit, and also with the flame. So far, my only complaint is that the smoke, there was no chip pan included with this smoker. I will probably go buy a cast iron pan to go in there, but for now I'm just using the one out of my Big Chief smoker, and those are in the $12–13 range, so they're not expensive to pick up, but you could probably find another heavy-duty pan at your local super center or whatever and just throw it in there and you'll probably be fine. The links below for this smoker will be in the description, and those are affiliate links, so if you use those I will get compensated, so thank you. Today I use the rib rack. I don't use rib racks a lot because I usually do one at a time. but that worked out really well because they was able to cook all of them on one shelf. And then of course my most favorite accessory of all is the grill mat, which I didn't use today, but I will be using it on next cook because I'll be doing a pork roast. And the other thing, the hot gloves, which are really nice to handle stuff, including the pan, because you have to take that pan in and out of there. So thanks a lot, and have a great day.